No free agents to look at. Great, good, average. Great, good, average, bad, ugly. And again, too soon for Zach Carter. Let's go. All right. So there's only one great. It's Geno Atkins. Like, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure if he didn't play for the Bengals. He's got 75.5 sacks in his career. I think that's the second most for an interior lineman. Again, he should be going in the Hall of Fame in the next 3 years fairly easily. I mean, that's it. He had, what, 3 all-pro seasons, like 7 Pro Bowl. I mean, like, dude is just a beast. He was a beast. It's a damn shame that him wound up hurting his shoulder and he just didn't want to kind of play anymore after that, or he couldn't be the same person after he hurt his shoulder. But I mean, yeah, it's Geno, and that's the only one that's great. Should be the next Bengal Hall of Famer, absolutely. And that's it. Round 4, by the way, in 2010. All right. How about the good? Hutch, thankfully, is not on here. I would say of all of those defensive tackles drafted, there's 2 good ones. I'll go with one with Pat Sims. He was good-ish. I had him initially in the bad average category, but he was good-ish. He's about a 4th-round pick. No, 3rd-round pick in 2008. He had some good seasons here. He left, went to the Raiders, had a couple of good seasons there, and then came back to the Bengals for a couple of more, pretty decent seasons as a run stopper. He did a good enough job for that. The other good one is Peko. Hutch would dispute this all the way to the end of the earth that Peko was a good defensive tackle. I don't think it's debatable. He was good. That's pretty much it. Yes, he did play next to a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro for several years with Geno Atkins, but he was good. He was just not good enough. I mean, that's basically it. He was a big dude, wide base, Samoan. He had all that going for him. But just, there were several times, again, where he would just get run over. But he's such a nice dude in person. Like, I think people forget a lot about, like, how good and nice, like, average, goodish of a player he was. And, Peko was good enough. I know Hutch would hate to say that because he didn't like Peko and thought he could be better. But I think he was good. So if you're sitting on the fence with Peko and Pat Sims as good average, you got to be thinking, holy crap, there's 12 more tackles that were drafted over 20 some odd years. That means everybody else is bad or ugly. Yeah. Why do the Bengals suck in the trenches? This is why. Their inability to draft defensive tackles, and we'll get to this soon enough, offensive tackles, is the reason that they're in this boat where, like, shoot, we got to overpay for people to get them to come to Cincinnati because you can't draft and develop on your own. Think about it. This is a preview of the offensive line. Look at all the dudes that are on the offensive line for the Bengals. Only one is a drafted player. Look at the dudes that were the defensive tackles for the Bengals the last couple of years. Yeah, one drafted player. No drafted players. Okay? Like B.J. Hill wasn't drafted by the Bengals. No, it was a trade. They had to get rid of Billy Price, who will come up in this next podcast. Why do the Bengals suck at bad in the trenches offensive line? Because they just can't do it. They can't draft and develop their own. And so, dang, why we got to pay all this money for these defensive tackles? Why can't we keep these other players? Because we have to pay money in the trenches for players that we are in this inability to draft. Okay? And we're looking at you, Cordell Volson. They're probably looking for a replacement for you. But since they can't draft anybody, they probably won't find your replacement. So, yeah, that's it. Good, Domata, Peko, Pat Sims. That's it.